I don't know if you follow the news, but you may have discovered not that long ago that the Air Accidents Investigation Branch had to deal with 16 DJI Mavics falling out of the sky while being operated by police in this country. Why? Because they're not as waterproof as the people flying them thought. So the question is, would they have been better off with the new PowerEgg X? Ooh. Opening as a lid. This is a truly sumptuous bit of packaging. Ooh. Fully detached. Now, if you've encountered the PowerEgg before, this is nothing like it. I mean, it's white and it's egg-shaped, so alright, in that respect it is like it, but it's not an update, it's an entirely new model. We pop the bottom off, you can see there's a camera at the front. That's a 4K 60 frame per second camera, or up to 720p at 240 frames a second. Really handling the action. There's a guard there, sorry. And that's on a 3-axis gimbal. Under the hood, there's these 2 buttons at either side to reveal 3800 mAh battery. Underneath there, a memory card, although there's also 6 GB of built-in memory. Well, one thing you'll notice is there aren't any propellers. There aren't even any arms for them. And that's because they are separate. It took me quite a while to work out what this bag was for. This bag comes in the Wizard kit, which is an upgrade, and the Wizard kit we'll get to in a minute because that is where the waterproof fun takes place. Didn't know the word Wizard was associated particularly with being waterproof, but clearly that's what PowerVision think. So this rather nice fetching bag is nothing to the actual case this thing comes in, which is beautiful. These clip in, they can only do it one way. And the smart battery button there is repeated through the prisms there. And there is not a small aircraft, pretty sizable. Just for sake of comparison, because I had it nearest, is the Mavic Mini. It's also bigger than a Phantom once folded out, so it does handle the air very well. It can achieve 40 miles an hour, so it can cope in Storm Force 5, give or take, which is pretty impressive. It can land on grass, which is more than can be said for quite a lot of DJI models because these legs pop out to a decent length. Well, you may remember the original PowerEgg came, optionally at least, with a weird Wiimote style controller. There's none of that now. We've got simple, straightforward, in fact, very beautiful remote, pop out arms, USB here. In the box there's a lightning lead, a USB-C and a micro USB, so you can plug it into nearly any phone. I had no problem fitting in my iPhone 11 Pro Max inside its case. There's one control wheel here, which is used for adjusting the gimbal. On the front we have a return to home, stop, power, and a switch between P, N and E. Essentially that's sports mode, normal mode, and extra slow, or tripod mode equivalent like that. Word of warning, I found out the hard way, that when you're in the sport mode, the collision sensors are turned off. And you can pop into the menus on screen in the app and turn them on, you might think, but they are still turned off because you are still in the sports mode. And, well, they really are definitely off. Let's just say that. I will also say the props are nice and easy to replace, and in every other respect the airframe seems very sturdy. Okay, yeah, here's the clip. So, an interesting shaped aircraft, but at the moment it's just interesting, unless we buy it in the Wizard kit. Then we get these, excuse me, this waterproof casing is also part of the Wizard kit. It's got a further sort of extension for the button. It slides fairly easily around the frame like that. Clips on, clips on, clips on, and then you open the arms. These Velcro attachments. The Wizard kit also gets you an extra smart battery and this lovely bag. Here we have a drone that can land on water, and it really does. I've tried it. a bit nervously, but it's fair to say that this is PowerVision's and not mine. So, I mean, not as nervously as I would have done with mine. It was a nice still day and I landed on this very calm surface. My favourite bit, to be honest, is the ripples you see before it lands, rather than afterwards. Afterwards, you just want to be absolutely sure the motors are going to start turning again. That Wizard kit is an extra 300, but it obviously gives you an amazing flexibility if you're interested in flying near water. You need to follow the sequence to detach it. But in the cheaper Explorer kit, we also get this hand grip and this tripod mount. I will say that this mount does lend itself to very small tripods, or I had to test it using a lighting stand. So pop the cover off. There is a blanking thing. You don't need to have the tripod mount if you're not going to use it, but we'll pop it in. And now we have what PowerVision call an AI camcorder. If you're about to ask the obvious question, you don't need the remote control to operate this. A lot of people spend a lot of money on separate stabilizers, and this will certainly give you very stabilized video. Hopefully, I have to say I didn't get a lot of evidence of it yet, but hopefully the AI will help you track subjects. I'll be doing a follow-up video once I've made that work. I know it can work. One slight downside I did notice in this mode is that there is a fan inside keeping the computing components cool, and that is a bit noisy. Not a problem if you're trying to use it as a waterproof drone or a drone at some distance. In fact, one of the nice features is you can record your audio straight from the microphone on your phone when the drone is quite distant. But definitely, if you're using this as a nearby camera, well, one of the things about cameras is, for video at least, you don't want them to be making too much noise. Still, it's a nice option to have, whether you use it or not. And it's pretty straightforward to convert. I'll give the gimbal mount a sort of medium, which is probably as good as any gimbal mount. It's a lot easier to get on than, say, the original Mavic Pro. And this egg thing is really very beautiful, although of course you're still left needing to store the arms and the controller. You also get charger, which you can use to charge the controller via these, and of course a battery. So will the police want this instead of a matrix? Well, quite possibly. You get a decent view from the sky, you get 1080p live feedback. On the other hand, the recording is only 75 Mbps, a little bit of a lower bit rate than with DJI's flagship aircraft. And to be absolutely honest, I think that quality shows. I certainly found there were areas that were a little softer than I'd have liked, especially when I was testing it in less appealing weather. I think the gimbal is good, whether it's just the airflow around here on a windy day or whether the gimbal itself could be slightly improved, but one way or another, I didn't think the video was maybe crystal perfect clear, but on the other hand, 60 frames per second to 4K and the ability to fly in slightly riskier places means that you might be able to get some footage that you wouldn't necessarily expect to get with a DJI. Worth remembering that when you add the extra 250 grams that is the landing skids and the protective shell, you are asking quite a bit more of the motors. The normal takeoff weight is 861 grams, and so that means that your flight time is going to come down from the half an hour, which is very acceptable, down to 12 to 15 minutes, which is long enough to get a few interesting shots and to risk going in over the water, but you need to be careful and on the ball and use that time carefully. You will definitely want the extra battery that comes with that kit. In terms of smart modes, this is, an excellent aircraft. We've got the collision sensors, which are used for AI flight modes. There's a full spread of automated tricks, just like you might expect to find on a DJI drone, and they work nicely, and they even work on a windy day. While I was testing it, I have to admit I didn't manage to make the time lapse or hyperlapse or whatever it is do anything. That menu just sort of reverted, but I presume that sort of thing will get improved over time. There are other areas of the software where there's some room for improvement. I mentioned already that I got a bit confused about whether I had the collision sensors on or not. It seems that every time I put a new battery in the aircraft, I need to quit and restart, which was a little bit frustrating. On the plus side, you can download and edit your creations straight away. Another thing I thought was a bit odd was it expanded the video to fit the screen of my phone, which is not 16:9. And even though it was shooting and recording 16:9 video, it looked wrong while I was flying, which I found a little annoying. Maybe there's an option in there to turn that off. Certainly there's RAW, there's burst, there's point of interest, there's all the sort of features you'd expect and more from a good quality expensive aircraft. The only slight disappointment, and it is a slight disappointment, is the image sensor is a 1/2.8 rather than 1/2.3, so it's a smaller image sensor, which means that it likes good light. I could tell just from very cloudy days that things weren't as good as I would have liked. But if you're interested in action, if you go to exciting places where you might want to take a GoPro, if you're interested in having a self-stabilized camera, then this is probably the aircraft that the GoPro Karma should have been. It's really beautifully designed. It comes in fantastic packaging. The egg thing is just really cool. The software is already good, already very good actually. It has some room for improvements, and I feel like those improvements are going to happen. It's streets ahead of the original PowerEgg. And PowerVision are definitely interested in innovating in the drone space, as well as really delivering when it comes to camera quality. In this case, they've concentrated on the frame rates that can be achieved, maybe more than the quality at the darker end of the scale. But that's no bad thing. For action, it's great. For some of the other things you see in their promo videos, like dancing, I imagine it's really cool. It's just that's not an area I can test well. The long and the short of it is that I absolutely love this thing, at least in part because of its bravery and its innovation. But I do think that it maybe isn't the best aircraft to go for if you are really just looking for the absolute maximum video quality. If you're looking for action, if you're looking for taking it to fun and interesting locations, and if you're looking to get something a little bit different, or if you're looking for a second drone that widens what you can achieve, this is a really natural choice. The 60 frame a second 4K, and in fact, 120 frame a seconds at 1080p really gives you some options. The tracking features, that kind of thing, very exciting. Collision detection works very nicely when you make sure you're in normal mode, and it's the sort of innovation we want to see in the drone market. For the best quality stills, then the Mavic 2 Pro. So this is more for fun, I guess, with the option of getting some shots that you just wouldn't risk with the Mavics, getting right in there near the water. And if you're running a business, there's a lot to be said for having that option, that second thing. Whether it is a useful external camera, I honestly can't say. It's not my area of specialty. It's a really nice idea. And the fact that you can record your sound straight to the microphone on your phone as you record the video from here, it's amazing no one's thought of that before. It's a brilliant idea. In short, if you're interested in the water stuff, that is what PowerVision do well. They do it really well, and they're the only people doing it. If you're interested in this as a drone, then it's a great drone for the action. It's great that it handles the water. But if you're just interested in doing the things that you already did with drones, then it's quite expensive, and aside from the frame rates, it's not bringing a lot that isn't already available. You've got to be thinking to yourself, you're going to be brave, you're going to break new ground, you're going to do cool stuff with this cool thing, or would you feel safer with a brand that other people know? Failing that, give it 3 months, just check they do the software updates. They've been around for a while now, PowerVision. I don't see any reason why they don't, but it would just be reassuring to know. There's already been one firmware update. Presumably things will keep getting better. If you want to see what happens when you fly a drone in the wind, you shouldn't. I'll be posting a video on that soon, so do please subscribe, and we're going to come back with some more tripod mounts. So again, subscribe to see a bit more. But for now, that's my first impression of this little ovoid